Welcome to episode 52 of Finding Your Hidden Superpower, Autism, Asperger's, and those of us who are neurodiverse. So, last episode, I talked about the power of chunking and how to figure out what you want to do and how you want to do it in order to figure out how to follow through on your New Year's resolution. So, going back. So, what do you really want? What is your purpose for what you want? And what is your massive action plan? Now, I talked about the power of chunking. So, if your goal is too abstract, so for instance, like I talked about wanting to lose weight, well, how are you going to do that? What kind of weight are you looking to lose? A lot of people, they would go on like the Atkins low carb diet, and all of a sudden they would be losing tons of weight, but they didn't realize that it wasn't fat, it was actually water weight. So once they went back onto carbohydrates, all of a sudden they gained all that weight back, and they were very discouraged because they didn't realize that they weren't burning fat, they were actually just getting rid of water out of their system. And getting water out of your system can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing. You can be dehydrated, or also it can bring down some inflammation. So there's good and bad things. But the bottom line is most people, when they want to lose weight, they want to lose body fat. So one of the things that the power of chunking, so what I do is I do what's called mind mapping, and I'm going to show you, and hopefully it's not too too hard to understand. So the idea is that it's part of brainstorming. And so what you do is you take an idea, and what I do is I just use one word. And so, for instance, one of the things that I want to tackle for my New Year's resolution is work on my triggers. So, what happens when I get a trigger? So, I get frustrated, I get anxious, I get hopeless sometimes, and a lot of times I can feel helpless. I can get depressed. So, so I broke that down. That's the first level of looking at what happens to me when I'm having triggers. So what emotions, what am I feeling? And so I'm looking at more why what I'm in touch with when I get triggered is, I didn't even put on their anger, in which that is an emotion. So the emotions come and go. So you have to figure out how to get yourself out of those negative. I'm trying to figure out how I can get myself out of those negative feelings. So, for instance, yeah, as part of this, I didn't even deal with anger, but let's just go anxious. So, I figured out, well, if I'm anxious, a lot of times when somebody's anxious, they have a list of too many things that they need to get done. So the problem is too big. They haven't chunked it down. And so what happens is that I need to chunk the problem down into smaller bits that I can understand, and then I won't be as anxious, or at least I hope I won't. So I'll have to try that idea. Um, so tackling hopelessness. So hopelessness, that's when you have no hope of changing anything. You're just stuck. Now, ask for help. Because if you don't ask for help, you're the one that's stuck with the problem and you won't be able to deal with it. So, also, when you ask for help, also look towards other people who have had the same kind of problem, and which pretty much, as far as emotions go, a lot of us have the same problems and the same emotional reactions. So what we need to do is find somebody we can look towards, and they don't even have to be a person that we know. It could be somebody else on YouTube, it could be a book, it could be somebody that you know also that has been able to, when they felt the same way that you feel, or at least I feel, when they feel the same way that I feel, that they've actually figured a way to get out of that emotion. And so, helplessness. So, one of the things with helplessness is that you don't know how to, or at least I don't know how to get out of that problem. So I'm not able to get help because I'm not able to look into who's been able to get that done. And, what works for them won't necessarily work for me. So, but at least I'll have a guide. I'll be able to figure out, oh, this person had this problem and they did XYZ and it worked for them. So maybe I should try it and see if it works for me. If it doesn't work for me, then I go back to the drawing board and I come up with a new plan. So, it says for helplessness, investigate how others got help to brainstorm better ideas to tackle the problem. So, I can go through and I could make another mind map of just dealing with helplessness and then just chunk down all of that and try and figure out what's going to work for me to get out of that helpless feeling. So also depression. A lot of the times when people are depressed, not necessarily clinically depressed, but just feeling down, a lot of the times there's a lot of regret there. There's a lot of ruminating about the past and how things aren't working out, and how you're realizing, or at least I am, that I have a I've been doing the same thing that hasn't been working, and then it's making me feel bad, and then it's making me feel depressed, and then feel lackluster and not good about myself. And so, what are the things I can do? So, because depression is a lot of times I'm worrying about past failures. So, and just magnifying the failure. And what, so the question is, well, one of the things that the best thing about the past is that it's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. It's only a memory. And that memory is going to be inaccurate. So a lot of the times we magnify the negative and minimize the positive. And so for every failure that you have, that just eliminates one thing that didn't work for you. So, Thomas Edison, the famous story is about the light bulb. It took him 1,000 failures in order to get one light bulb to work. He had, and so how many failures do you have in order to figure out what is going to work? And it's okay. So just follow through on it. So the past is gone. And now I know what doesn't work. That's the bottom line, is I know what doesn't work. So I can move on from there. So just like I said before, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. So you got to change. You got to change little things and then figure out what works best for you. And so yeah, I got to figure out when I get depressed, that what am I going to do in order to get out of that depression? How can I change what I'm doing in order to get out of the past, get into right now, and figure out what I can do about these triggers? So that's the bottom line. Is a trigger is just something. It can be a noun, it can be a verb, it can be anything. It can be your internal state. It could be somebody's pissing you off, and all of a sudden, you're blaming them for all your problems. So it can be external, and life is unfair. So the idea is that life is unfair, There's a bunch of people out there that are gonna trigger you. They're not necessarily doing it on purpose. Just say you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off. They didn't see you because they weren't paying attention. Now, they should have been paying attention, but they aren't paying attention. Did they crash into you? If they did, you got to take care of it with insurance, and there's a whole lot of stuff. But if they didn't crash into you, so and you getting all mad, that means they're taking up your mind space, and they are taking away your power, and you need to take your power back. So when you do get triggered, you got to realize that what you need to do is break it down into little chunks. This may seem confusing. I show people how I do things, and it's a bit wacky. They don't like it. It doesn't work for them, but this mind mapping works for me because this took less than 5 minutes, and these are just some things that I wanted to show you as an example of what you can do using the power of chunking. So just break down, and then keep on diving in. And because one of the things that us autistic, neurodiverse, Asperger's, or whatever you want to call yourself, one of the things that we can do is go down the rabbit hole. We can become experts. So, one of the problems is that we can also become experts at our negative emotions. So, when somebody triggers us or something triggers us, like a scent or a sound, we're trying to shut that down and make other people live according to our way of dealing with the world. Well, the world doesn't work that way because you're just going to scare everybody away from you. And then the people that you can't scare away, you're going to have major problems with, and you're going to limit your life. So please don't limit your life because you have a lot of strengths that you can give this world, and you can be able to express yourself and become very, very, very creative, and you can become the top of your game if you figure out how to deal with your triggers. And just chunk it down. Just look at what is triggering you and just start, the who, what, why, when, and where, how. And then, you want to move on to that. So going back to how you can use this for your New Year's resolution. So you just need to brainstorm. You chunk down the problem, and this is one way of doing it. This is the way that works for me. And so find your way of brainstorming, finding out how to answer the who, what, when, who, what, where, how, and why you want to do this. And you want to own this. You want to make sure that this is what you want to do. Because don't waste your time. Don't try and impress others. Because as we know, us neurodiverse people, we've been bullied a lot of the time of our lives. And we've been considered nerds, weird, blah, blah, blah. So that's all the negative. So this is where you can become positive, and you can take this and run with it, and then you can figure out how you can be the best version of yourself. So with that, this is the end of the chunking video, and tomorrow I'll move on to something else. So have a great afternoon and Happy New Year.